Over this talk, we're going to talk about the history of Savacentre, from their beginnings to eventual amalgamation within the Sainsbury's company. Sainsbury's began the 1970s in a strong position. Profits were good and branches were opening across an ever-increasing area. But the new chairman, J.D. Sainsbury, always had an eye on wider developments in retailing and opportunities to diversify. One notable trend was the rise of the hypermarket, defined at the time as stores usually in out-of-town locations, including over 4,600 square metres, which was 50,000 square foot of selling area, large car parks, and often concessions such as pharmacies, post offices, and dry cleaners. All the foods one expected to find at a supermarket would be sold, plus a wide range of non-food items, and economies of scale meant that prices could be kept lower than smaller stores. In Britain, few hypermarkets had opened at the time, but in France they were well established. The result of Sainsbury's attempt to match the success was Savacentre. Sainsbury's announced its intention to enter the hypermarket business in April 1975 when it formed a company jointly with department store chain British Home Stores, which is known as BHS. Each would own half of the new venture. Great excitement greeted the prospect of a store which combined BHS's considerable knowledge of textiles, household goods, and home lighting with Sainsbury's own brand food. Sainsbury's 1975 annual report noted that while the new company will operate as an independent entity, it will be backed by the buying resources and knowledge of the parent companies, thus bringing a unique degree of quality to British hypermarket trading. Strict planning regulations were a significant initial hurdle. At that time, all stores over 50,000 square feet had to be approved by the Department of the Environment. But by early 1977, sites for 3 hypermarkets had been obtained. The first to open would be at Washington in Tyne and Wear, close to the major cities of Newcastle and Gateshead, Sunderland and Durham. Sainsbury's design team produced a dynamic, circular jigsaw symbol for Savacentre. Peter Dixon, head of Sainsbury's design team at the time, said that a company symbol must be hard-hitting and controversial if it is to work. It must also be ahead of its time. He added that it must be simple and clear-cut enough to be adapted to every aspect of the company's business, from company stationery through to shop fronts, badges, carrier bags, and promotional material. The interlocking shape he and his design team came up with fit this brief exactly. The dynamicism of the parent companies combined through 2 intricate but perfectly linked halves, which together formed the initial letter of Savacentre. And controversial, said Mr. Dixon. First reactions to it are, what the hell does it mean? Thought was also given to the colours used. Blue and green were chosen as they earned sympathy with the out-of-town and sometimes rural environments most of the Savacentre stores were to be located in. A head office was located in the village of Seal near Reading to allow easy access to future hypermarkets across the country. In 1981, this moved to nearby Wokingham. The Washington Savacentre opened on the 15th of November in 1977. It had a sales area of 6,500 square metres, which was 70,000 square feet, half of which was devoted to textiles, electrical goods and hardware. There were parking spaces for 1,300 cars, and not, in fact, 13,000, as the Sainsbury Staff magazine mistakenly reported the previous year. It cost $3 million to build and took around 500 staff to operate. All management information was processed on a central computer linked to mini-computers at each of the 36 checkouts, enabling detailed reports on takings, customer numbers, and sales of certain items to be printed out every hour. And this was a first for any British retail company. The computer system coped well with the constant stream of customers on the opening day. Although the pre-opening firework display and balloon launch had to be cancelled due to a firefighter strike and high winds, over 10,000 people poured in. The new store featured many highlights beside the wide range of merchandise and low prices. The design concept, largely the work of the Sainsbury's designers and architects, provided eye-catching promotional areas and striped colour codings to identify departments. A 380-seat restaurant impressed customers with its quality and a menu featuring duck à l'orange. As well as a bakery and delicatessen, there was a fresh fish counter, which was the inspiration for similar counters later opened in many Sainsbury's branches. On opening day, it proudly displayed an 18.5-stone shark. Turnover continued to meet expectations in subsequent weeks, and letters full of praise flooded in. 4 weeks after opening, shoppers were still having to be turned away on a Saturday because the store was too full. Sainsbury's had yet to open any supermarkets in the northeast of England, so lots of customers were keen to buy its own brand products for the first time and demanded an even bigger selection. It was an exciting time for staff too, who felt they were pioneers and at the centre of something new. The success of Washington was soon replicated, as by March 1980, Savacentres had opened in Hempstead, near Gillingham in Kent, and in Basildon in Essex. Each had sale areas and staff numbers on a similar scale to the first hypermarket. Many shoppers at these southern Savacentres, unlike those ones in Washington, were well used to Sainsbury's goods, but getting them cheaper in Savacentre was a major attraction. Also popular were the opening hours, which allowed for more evening shopping than Sainsbury's branches. The Hempstead branch was 12,450 square metres, which was about 134,000 square feet, which was half the total of the Hempstead Valley Shopping Centre where the store was located. It also had a licensed self-service restaurant on the first floor with a panoramic view of the sales hall below. The restaurant catered from everything from a snack to a 4-course evening meal with wine. It was open for an hour longer than the store, which was open from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays, and until 9 p.m. on Fridays. The Basildon store was slightly larger even than the initial 2 shops. The Savacentre occupied a total area of approximately 13,935 square metres, which was 150,000 square feet, about half of which was used for warehousing and the other half as the sales hall. The sales area was allocated approximately into 1/3 for food, 1/3 for hard goods, and 1/3 for textiles, footwear, and the lighting department. 18,000 people went through the 36 checkouts on the opening day. The 4th Savacentre opened in October 1980 at Albury in the West Midlands. Nearly 25,000 customers went through the doors on the first day to explore 70,000 square feet of sales hall. The opening was actually brought forward by 6 months, with the completion of the building of the store well ahead of schedule. Then the 5th store was opened in September of the following year at Calcott, a suburb of Reading. This Savacentre was situated only a few hundred yards from Junction 12 on the M4 motorway, in a 24-acre landscape site which had been planted with 16,400 trees and shrubs. It had a dependence largely on the car-borne shopper, being located so close to a major road. Therefore, it had a free car park for 1,340 vehicles and, of course, a petrol station. A total of 867 people were employed at this store. These 2 stores at Albury and Calcott were so large that the air handling units had to be airlifted onto their roofs by helicopter. The company had got off to a promising start. In Sainsbury's 1980 annual report, J.D. Sainsbury told shareholders that sales have outstripped our most optimistic forecasts. The volume of trade being achieved by the first 2 hypermarkets has caused us to review the systems necessary to handle an intensity of sales per square foot that is rarely achieved in hypermarkets anywhere in the world. The complexity of planning such large stores and the need for Sainsbury's and BHS to focus on their core business meant that the next Savacentre did not open until late 1984. But when it did, at Cameron Toll, at the edge of Edinburgh, it represented a significant milestone, as Sainsbury's products went on sale in Scotland for the first time. It had 68,000 square foot of sales area, and in the opening PR campaign, the company compared this size to that of a pitch at Hibernian football pitch, which was local to the branch, of 75,000 square feet. They also added around 200 product lines to meet the Scottish taste, including Scottish beef and Scottish lamb. Murals were installed inside the shop to celebrate the city's architecture and history. I've included a couple of quick Savacentre adverts here, so you get to have a look at what some of the interiors of the shops used to look like. And also you get a glimpse, obviously, of Savacentre's marketing campaigns.
When Sainsbury's and British Home Stores got together, they created Savacentre, a store like no other.
Morning, store. This joint is jumping, it's really jumping. Come on in and wear a grin, I mean the joint is jumping. It's opening time.
Savacentre. It's more like an outing than shopping.
And the next one.
We asked our customers how we could make Savacentre even better. More of the same, please, they said. So now you'll find around 10,000 more square feet of space. The new Savacentre has more quality, more choice, and even more low prices than ever before. There's more style, more fashions, more space, and more checkouts. In fact, Washington's bigger, better Savacentre is now even more like an outing than shopping.
So Savacentre continued to trade profitably for the rest of the 1980s, and in February 1989 opened a store in Merton in southwest London. With 50 checkouts, 13 concessions, and a sales area of 110,000 square foot, the store was the largest hypermarket in the UK and employed 1,000 people. Just 2 weeks later, a major development. Sainsbury's announced the acquisition of BHS's 50% holding in the company. The agreed price was £123 million, and Savacentre became a wholly owned subsidiary of J. Sainsbury plc. The move was not altogether surprising, as food made up around 75% of the company's turnover. The hypermarkets were now branded Sainsbury's Savacentre and featured a new logo with a modern family image created the previous year by the Comron Design Group. The first Savacentre to open after the acquisition was at London Colney in Hertfordshire. At 11,000 square metres, which was 120,000 square feet, it was the largest in the company. BHS products were gradually phased out from Savacentre shelves in the early 1990s, to be replaced in part by Sainsbury's own offerings. Particularly successful were the Sainsbury's Lifestyle label, which was a comprehensive range of clothes for all the family, and its successor, Initials. And as you can see from the image here, there was a full stop in between every single letter in the word Initials. I have no idea if it stood for anything particular. Non-food lines from other suppliers continued to vary widely, from bargain books to fine fragrances for famous names. For a time, 3 stores even sold Daewoo cars, which was ending the company's claim from 1984 that the only things they didn't sell were cars, carpets, and furniture. As well as new products, Savacentre's tradition of innovation extended into its marketing. Aiming to make visiting a hypermarket more like an outing than shopping, stores put on family fortnights at Easter and October half-term, with children's entertainment, cartoon characters, raffles and competitions, demonstrations, bouncy castles outside the shop, and sometimes even carousels and much more. The opening of new Savacentres involved similar razzmatazz, as can be seen here with Pink Panther, Dennis the Menace, and the Thunderbirds at the opening of the Beckton branch, and Spider-Man making an appearance at the opening of the Sydenham branch. Apparently, when the Thunderbird characters appeared in store, children would also arrive in their own Thunderbird costumes to have their photograph taken with them. And the idea behind this was to make shopping much more fun. By 1997, the number of Savacentres had risen to 13, as hypermarkets were opened in Sheffield, in the Meadowhall shopping centre on the outskirts of the town next to the M1. The store was 3 times larger than the biggest JS supermarket, with 50 checkouts, a full Sainsbury's food range, home-based products, household goods and fashion, a coffee shop, a flower shop, a telephone shop, and even its own post office. A branch at Beckton, where the response to the store was overwhelming. On opening day, the queue stretched along the edge of the store and all the way around the car park. And when the doors opened, it took almost an hour for all those people to filter into the branch. And then branches at Sydenham, Stockton-on-Tees and Leeds. At Sydenham, the Savacentre name was emblazoned on the roof in letters large enough to be visible from Heathrow-bound aircraft. And it can still be seen today. So if you're on holiday recently or soon, and you're going to be flying to Heathrow, remember to look out of your window when you're flying over South East London to see if you can find the words Savacentre written on the roof of this branch. A new type of store called Bulker Save was opened next door to Beckton Savacentre, selling multiple packs and cases of goods. Although this was only open for a short time, it did lead to the introduction of numerous bulk packs within Savacentre store themselves. A strategic review begun in 1997 determined that Savacentre should become the flagship for the Sainsbury's Group. Food was to be emphasised even more alongside a focused range of associated products in 4 new categories: celebration, indulgence, baby and toddler, and cook shop. This was rolled out at Calcott in 1998 and included revolutionary retail concepts such as food to go and food of the world centres. The following year, however, the Sainsbury's board decided to integrate Savacentre into the main supermarket business. The head office at Wokingham was closed to avoid duplication of activities, and the hypermarkets became Sainsbury's largest store format. In 2002, the Savacentre name returned at selected supermarkets, aiming to emphasise value and attract family shoppers. However, these stores returned to the main Sainsbury's brand in 2005, thus ending the Savacentre name. Most of the former Savacentres are still trading as Sainsbury's store today, and I know many people still call them by their original name, including my neighbour. Throughout their history, they were an important proving ground for many concepts and products that would go on to be common in smaller Sainsbury's supermarket stores, especially with regards to technological improvements. And it can definitely be said that Sainsbury's answer to the hypermarket can be seen as a success.